I feel really lucky to be here at SwitchPoint with so many amazing people. You're all working to make this world a better place, and you're coming at that goal from different angles. My name is Rabinovitch Blecker. I work at Data2X, and I'm going to introduce a new angle to this goal of bettering our world. But first, a video. So there you have it, the gender data revolution. But what does this mean in real life, and why am I bringing it here to SwitchPoint? Well, consider this. Think of a woman in the global south. Maybe she's in Africa, maybe she's in Asia, someone we've all likely met in our work. She has multiple children and lives in a rural community. Her days are spent caring for her family. She cooks, she cleans, she may collect water and firewood. She looks after her children and maybe an elderly parent. Many of us in this room have seen this woman and many women with lives like her. And many of us are frustrated that despite best development efforts, we haven't seen great progress or improved outcomes for her. There are many deeply entrenched reasons why this woman is not sufficiently supported, and we've heard some of them today. But the reason I'm going to talk about is the significant gap that exists in data about women and girls. This woman is often not counted in national data systems. And this is a problem, not simply as an issue of equity, because I'm sure everyone here agrees that all people deserve to be counted. This is a problem because to make good policy and programmatic decisions, we need good data. How can a government address the needs of women and girls if they don't have data about their lives? We simply can't change or improve something we're not measuring. So what do we know about this woman? It's likely that her national government only tracks a few pieces of data. This might include how many children she has and other details about her reproductive health and history, whether her children are enrolled in school, and whether she or her husband have a formal job. What do we not know? We don't know if she holds down informal employment. We don't know if she's experienced violence in her life. And we don't know anything about her aspirations and perceived needs for herself and her family. This data about the lived realities of women and girls is called gender data, and there's a dearth of it. In fact, research estimates that globally, we only have about 1/3 of the data we need to measure the gender aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals. The gaps in gender data result from bias that's both intentional and unintentional throughout the data life cycle, from how it's collected and produced to whether it's used. So for starters, how is data collected? It's common practice for surveyors to ask questions about family life to the head of household. And in many countries, the head of household is identified as the oldest or highest earning male in the home. This can result in fathers answering questions about daughters, husbands answering questions about wives. When women aren't given an opportunity to answer for themselves, their needs can be obscured or missed altogether. Also, who's collecting the data? If surveyors do speak to women, do the women feel comfortable and safe sharing sensitive information, like about instances of violence? There's also the question about what data governments choose to collect. For example, labor statistics count formal employment only. So the many hours of unpaid work, the cooking, the childcare, the housework, the majority of which is typically conducted by women, are not reflected in labor data. And finally, there's the question of use. For example, if data on gender-based violence is collected, do decision makers respond to the findings? Or do they find ways to explain them or just ignore them altogether? For the woman in our story, and for so many women worldwide, their work, their needs, their lives are simply not reflected in existing data systems. But this doesn't have to be the case. I'm the Director of Communications at Data2X, an alliance housed at the UN Foundation that's dedicated to improving the quality, availability, and use of gender data to make a practical difference for women and girls. We work in partnership with governments, UN agencies, the private sector, and civil society to close gaps in gender data, promote expanded and unbiased gender data collection, and use gender data to improve policies, strategies, and decision-making, all with gender equality as our ultimate end goal. So for example, we're supporting central banks to collect gender data on access to financial services, because understanding who's using banking products can help banks target women as clients and achieve financial inclusion. We're working with refugee agencies to collect data about refugee and displaced women. We're working with the International Labour Organization and the World Bank to find new ways to measure and value unpaid care work. And we're experimenting with new data sources to explore how digital data from satellites, social media, and mobile phones can offer insights into aspects of the lives of women and girls that aren't captured by official statistics. The good news is that when gender data is collected and is used, significant policy improvements are possible. I'm going to share just one example with you. In Uruguay, there was this intuitive recognition that women were spending more time on unpaid care than men, which made it very challenging for women to enter the formal economy. But without official data, there wasn't enough evidence to spur policy change and alleviate women's time burdens. So first academics and then the National Statistics Office in Uruguay began collecting sex-disaggregated time use data. This is data about how people are spending their time broken down between men and women. The data showed that though men were spending more time over time on unpaid work, women were consistently spending a much, much greater proportion of their time on unpaid care. So, with this gender data in hand, civil society was able to advocate for change, and in 2015, Uruguay enacted a national care policy which provides childcare and elderly care, which helps reduce the burden of care that women were disproportionately facing and makes it possible for them to enter the formal economy. And Uruguay's not alone. Around the world, there are examples of countries using data that comes out of time use surveys to create policies like care policies, family leave policies, flexible work policies, which help everybody, but disproportionately help women since they are the ones who are doing most of the unpaid care work. You've come here to SwitchPoint to tackle some of the world's greatest problems, and I'm here to tell you that lack of gender data is one of them. Systemic bias, entrenched systems, and lack of resources are stopping women and the communities and countries where they live from reaching their full potential. Gathering complete, unbiased gender data is a necessary first step towards addressing the inequities in our world. If you care about gender equality, I urge you to advocate for better gender data. Because if we can get this data right, we can move beyond talking about gender equality and instead measure and celebrate how we're achieving it. Thank you.